All right, folks, we're down to it. The battle lines have been drawn. Which side would you rather be on? The heroes or the goats? Come on, the US media is being and acting in completely shameful ways. Let's go take a look at this. Hello everyone, Dr. Chris Martinson here. I've got my PhD in pathology from Duke University. Some of you still wonder about that. Hey, today we're going to talk about the shameful media, Heroes and Goats edition, episode 1. We're going to have a lot of episodes in this series if I continue to track it down. Hey, by the way, down there, let's give a nod to our good friend, the honey badger. Relentless and persistent, and something to be emulated if you really want to get ahead in life, I think. So let's start with the heroes in this story. Remember a couple days ago, I've been talking about this gentleman and his group, Dr. Pierre Kory and the FLCCC, the Frontline COVID Critical Care Alliance. They've been doing some of the best work in developing actual protocols and treatment protocols and things like that. And by the way, who are these people? We saw Dr. Kory. I was super impressed with this gentleman. By the way, he reached out to me personally by email just this morning saying thank you very much for the coverage and that they've been following, his group has been following some of the work that I've been doing here. And of course, I've been following their first Math Plus and then the iMask protocols, starting, first one I'm aware of is in June. So for a long time, been covering their excellent work. So this is the person we saw gave that super impassioned testimony. He said, I can't keep doing this. This being watching people come into his ward to die when he knows that they don't have to. Because there are effective treatments out there. So, okay, so who's he speaking for? Who is this group? Some shadowy group. Well, let's take a look and bring them out of the shadows. It includes these fine people here. You've got these 4 doctors and a DO, 3 doctors and DO in here, including all the way on the right there, Paul Merrick, who's actually the person who's one of the lead authors of the Math Plus protocol coming out of EVMS, the Eastern Virginia Medical School. Just some super accomplished people. Together, these people plus these people, which includes Fred Wagschel, Howard Cornfield, Keith Berkowitz, Scott Mitchell, and last 2 people in this group, Pierre Kory, of course, who we've been introduced to, and Umberto Meduri. Together, this group of people has over 2,000 publications on primary healthcare and healthcare issues and things like that. So they're practicing doctors, and they're also researchers, and there are people who are running clinical trials. This is as accomplished a group as you're ever going to find. And they've banded together to talk about this Frontline COVID Critical Care Alliance. This is what they've done, and they come from all sorts of different places here. So we've got a gentleman from Norway there, Texas, out of New Mexico, obviously Northern Virginia there for Paul Merrick. So all over the place. So all I'm trying to do is impress upon you that this is actually this is a really solid crew right here. These people know what they're talking about. 2,000 publications, and they're on the front lines of all of this. All right, why does that matter? Because that's the setup you need to understand what happens when we read something like this, okay? This is how the New York Times characterized that session where we saw Dr. Kory's very impassioned Senate testimony. And the New York Times chose to first look at the headline, Elevating Fringe Theories, Ron Johnson Questions Virus Science. So the Wisconsin Republican Ron Johnson is a little bit of a lightning rod. He's got a Senate panel, and what they say here is that he's transformed his Senate panel into a forum for amplifying dubious theories and questionable treatments pushed by Donald Trump. So already, look at the loaded phraseology here. So one of the things I like to do when I'm looking at how the media is trying to influence me, and by the way, I no longer consent to the media being allowed to influence how I feel about things, because that's my power. My power is to decide for myself what's right, what's wrong, to decide for myself what's true and what's not true. But this is Psychology 101, very, very clever. Once you can decode this, you too will be as offended as I am when you read stuff like this, because it's actually sophomoric and it's like somebody went to one training class on how to write incendiary language at Propaganda School 101. Elevating fringe theories. There it is, fringe theories. So they've just referred to that group of people I told you about with 2,000 publications as fringe somehow. Somehow they're in the fringe. All right, let's keep going. And see, but I mean, little question marks around my head. I don't get it. Like how do you even call these things fringe theories. All right, so I don't know. So this episode, here's what we're up against. Let me get my drawing tool out so we can go into this real quick. All right, these two fine people, Katie Edmondson and Nicholas Fandos. Just remember those names. We'll be coming back to them. So they wrote here, in choosing a slate of doctors to testify about coronavirus treatments before his committee on Tuesday, Senator Ron Johnson has assembled a cast of witnesses who question much of the public health consensus. Who questions the consensus? What kind of monsters? You assemble a cast for that. Look at that language, assembled a cast. A cast, when you assemble a cast, usually you're putting on a play. When you use that phraseology right there, assembling a cast simply means that we're trying to equate this with like a high school play or a production or some element of theatrics, which has nothing to do with anything. And by the way, they're running against public health consensus. So that's an appeal to authority. So you can see that that's a really well-crafted opening sentence. I think the editor in charge had a hand in that, or maybe these two went back and forth on that, but well done. They've said assembled a cast, and they're against the consensus. Oh, terrible. Look at this. They continued, there is a prominent vaccine skeptic, an outspoken critic of masking and social distancing, and at least 2 doctors who promoted the use of an anti-parasitic drug that government scientists have recommended against using to treat the coronavirus. All right, there's a lot wrong with that sentence right there. 2 doctors who promoted the use of an anti-parasitic drug. Sounds like, oh my God, what crazy fringe people. What an assembled cast. Wow, no wonder they're running against the consensus, because they're using an anti-parasitic drug. So what they're not doing here is they're not mentioning Dr. Kory, because one of the things that happens when you mention Dr. Kory and his team, and you Google them, you find out, oh, this isn't an assembled cast of fringy people. This is one of the most accomplished crews you could possibly assemble. If you don't trust them, who can you trust? Well, government scientists. Why would I trust government scientists more than I would trust other scientists, right? You'd have to, but you can feel the weight of this, right? So the New York Times is trying to push forward this idea that you really can't trust the Senate side of the government if it comes from a wackadoodle Republican they hate, but if it's from their side, you can trust the government scientists more than these fringy people. Look at this. This is not reporting. This is an op-ed piece, an opinion piece masquerading as reporting because it's just loaded with emotional language in here. Everything in here is designed to nudge you into this idea that you're either with consensus and you're part of the group or you're out here in the fringe. Who wants to be out in the fringe? We all want to belong, right? So they're trying to evoke this sense of belonging. And if you even make it past the first 2 paragraphs, good for you. But you should have by now, according to the way they've been writing this, just realized anybody who might have spoken at this I can just write them off right away. Okay. This is continuing down in that same article in the New York Times. It says, and twice in the past 3 weeks, Mr. Johnson has used his gavel on the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee to elevate voices who public health experts say represent fringe beliefs. Public health experts. You don't name the experts, but who would those be? Who are public health experts? These would be the people who have not managed to mention vitamin D. These would be the people who have not mentioned to talk about Dwizabin 1 or Dwizabin 2. These are the people who have managed not to talk about any of the things that could actually work. These are the people who have managed to kill hundreds of thousands and maim hundreds of thousands of Americans. So those are the people we're talking about here, right? And so again, the framing, look at that. Used his gavel to elevate voices who public health experts, who shall be unnamed, say, there we go to the appeal to authority again, represent fringe beliefs. It has set off something of a quiet mutiny on the panel, enraging Democrats who plan to essentially boycott the traditional cross-examination of witnesses and unsettling some Republicans who are planning to skip Tuesday's session lest their presence be seen as lending credence to the proceeding. Like, oh, nobody wants to be associated with this. Look, Democrats are not only enraged, but they're boycotting it. And even some Republicans have scurried for the hills here on this one. Wondering how much pharma campaign donations are made to every one of those scurrying individuals who scurried away from this particular thing. Notice my use of the word scurry. Normally you'd use that with a rodent or something like that. See, I can do it too. Anyway, just having fun. The selections underscore the extent to which Mr. Johnson, a former plastics baron who has made little secret of his disdain for the Washington establishment, has eagerly echoed the most conspiracy-minded, oh, that's it, they're conspiracy-minded, we're out. That's it. You played the trump card, ace of spades. We're out. You win. But let's keep going. And anti-science impulses of Mr. Trump, and waded headfirst into battles. Even the president's usually reliable phalanx of congressional defenders have been unwilling to fight. Nice word use, phalanx. Let's make sure we're all clear on that. I had to pull that one up. I sort of knew what it was, but I wanted to make sure. It represents a body of troops or police officers standing or moving in close formation. So, yeah, those conspiracy-minded anti-science impulses of Mr. Trump and the president's usually reliable phalanx of congressional defenders have been unwilling to fight. Yeah, nobody wants anything to do with it. Not even the phalanx. They're out. Everybody's piecing out on this story. That's how it's being written here. And so you read. I'm like just reading this. I'm like, where Dr. Kory was such an impassioned, such a strong voice of authority. So like here's a person who's got representing an accomplished team of people saying, we know how to treat this thing. We know how to prevent it from happening in the first place. That's kind of important, wouldn't you think? So I'm thinking maybe his name would show up, or these reporters, and I'm going to use double air quotes, reporters. You would normally, as part of reporting, you might say, well, okay, who are these people? Let me do a little background research on them. Oh, well, Dr. Pierre Kory, and look at all these other people. Oh, geez, 2,000 publications. I'd actually want these people treating me, maybe. I don't know. They're like, anyhow, they said here, this is all they said about Dr. Kory, but they didn't want to give you his name in this article because then you, as small as the chance is that somebody's going to Google something like this, but then his name would be out there and people could find it. Instead, they said, quote, 2 others promote the use of Duizabin 2. I can't even say it anymore because you know that'll get banned here, right? A drug often used to fight lice and pinworms to treat coronavirus patients. They don't have lice or pinworms. You can just feel the derision dripping off of this, right? Despite NIH recommendation against its use outside clinical trials. That was the whole reason that Dr. Kory was there, was to say to the NIH, you haven't updated your guidance since August 27th on this magic drug, this miracle drug, and you really need to do that because this could save a lot of lives. That was the whole point of the whole thing. Instead, they're just like, well, the reporters said that the NIH recommends against its use. Reporters. Okay, Mr. Johnson said he felt that the public had a right to learn about early treatments that they might otherwise be aware of. That I am in agreement with that. And again, I'm not partisan, not taking sides. It's not who I am. There's a blackout on good information in social media and media, he said. So people are being denied information to make intelligent choices themselves. I'm going to have to score one for the senator on that, though. He's actually right about that. And that's why my channel does what it does. But again, I'm going to have to bust out the... I don't... All right. I'm almost at a loss for words. Let's keep going here. So who we're up against instead of what we're up against, because you know what? It's not the New York Times doing this. There are 2 people who put their names to this particular article. They wrote it down, and their names will forever be etched against what I consider to be, if I had written this article, I would forever be deeply embarrassed at the level of ignorance I had on display. This was an ignorant article, fundamentally, or it was malicious. You decide which is worse for you. But these 2 get to forever have etched against their names something that I would be deeply ashamed of if I had penned it because of the level of ignorance. And by the way, not for nothing, but you know, the New York Times likes to pride itself as being a thoughtful, erudite, speaking for the more educated classes out there. But they keep putting stuff out here like this, which is deeply ignorant. And I'm not saying stupid, unintelligent. I'm not saying anything about that, about these. This is an IQ discussion. Ignorant means you simply do not have knowledge in your possession. I am ignorant of how rocket motors work. I could probably figure it out eventually with some training, but I don't know. So I'm ignorant, right? So this was an ignorant article. It's just embarrassingly ignorant. But it doesn't extend just to those 2. Here we have Senator Gary Peters of Michigan, the top Democrat on the panel, fretted that the witnesses would amplify theories that are at odds with the broader scientific community and, according to experts, could cause harm. These fringe views run counter to what the Senate should be doing, working on a bipartisan basis to protect the American people and tackle this deadly pandemic. So congratulations, Gary. You get your face put up here too. These are not theories at odds with the broader scientific community. There are papers now. There's lots of clinical data about these sorts of things. So you can't say that without being actually just ignorant and or malicious. I can't, you pick which it is. But these are the people who are actually making this pandemic worse. And I'm going to show you a bit more about how you would actually approach this a pandemic if you're going to do it well and do it in a good way. But so these people, every one of these people right here owes Dr. Kory and his team an apology, a heartfelt apology. They owe him several. You should apologize once a day for an entire month. And even then, good luck getting rid of the blemish of the level of ignorance that you actually had to bring to the table in order to find yourself in that position in the first place. All right, what we're up against, MSNBC edition says here, Ron Johnson uses his Senate platform in a profoundly misguided way by a Steve Bannon here, came out December 9th, says the Senate Homeland Security Committee could have spent the last several months doing important work. A deadly pandemic, after all, is a profound domestic threat, which demanded that powerful Senate panel's time and attention. But the Senate Homeland Security Committee, led by Senator Ron Johnson, who's insisted on using the high-profile platform in a profoundly misguided way. Another is reading down this is the same thing. I could decode it. It's all just like power language designed to evoke the fact that you're either on the good side or you're on this stupid fringe conspiracy-minded side. All right. Reading down that article continues. Another witness touted a wonder drug. I actually called it a miracle drug, which didn't even get the quote right. Ron. Which should be seen as the solution to COVID-19. This was in reference to an anti-lice drug called Duazepin, which the NIH has recommended against using as a coronavirus treatment. Of course, the problem wasn't limited to the fringe voices given a high-profile platform on Capitol Hill. The larger problem was with the senator who invited them, blah, 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 blah. And he says he also suggested real scientists and respected public health experts might have corrupt motivations. Imagine that. Could they? I don't have any other explanations. I don't know. Which leads him to find credibility in fringe voices. This is the author of this piece, Steve Bannon, who is an Emmy Award producer for The Rachel Maddow Show. So, I'm not sure how medicine got this politicized to the point that what I am assuming are people who think of themselves in reasonable, positive terms, I would assume, because they go to bed and wake up every day and keep doing what they do, they have to be thinking of themselves in some positive light. So they must really honestly believe that that medicine has become politicized somehow. But for Steve here and Katie and Nicholas to call this particular group fringe is astonishing. These are some of the most accomplished people you could possibly find in this space. They're not fringe. If they're fringe, there is no there's no center to be found in this story. This is as center as you can get. These are this is it. This is as good as it gets. All right. So at any rate, if we were going to tack up sort of a wall of shame and put faces on it, I know the faces that I would be putting on there right now because, like, oh my God, if I wrote any of these things, I would be so profoundly embarrassed at the level of ignorance that I was bringing forward into the world. Be embarrassing, really would. But that's how I'm built. Meanwhile, in India, get this out. It says here, yes, dear people are speaking all over the world. You are being heard loud and clear. This is a COVID kit from India, distributed by the state government of Uttar Pradesh. This is the kit. Let's blow it up a little bit and look in a little bit tighter there. Oh, what's right at the top? Duazepin 2. That stuff, right? They're giving out 6 milligram, 2 6 milligram tablets for 12 milligrams, and you're supposed to take them once, twice, 3 times, 3 days in a row. Totally, this is going to rock it. Oh, hey, look, doxycycline, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. By the way, they're just going around handing out these kits. Can you imagine what it would be like to live in a place where somebody just showed up and handed this to you, right? Oh, hey, look, vitamin C, giving it out for 10 total days here. A multivitamin, another 10 days. Vitamin D3, 60,000 units, not 400 units. You listening in, UK? With your 400 units to your most vulnerable. Oh my God, it's so embarrassing. Wall of shame kind of stuff. Anyway, they're giving out 60,000 units, 2 separate days. And that's for a category 1 level of illness. If you dial that up and you have category 2 of illness, things just get dialed up a little bit more in a few regards. And they're also handing out oximeters, thermometers, paracetamol, and azithromycin. So if you're over there on category 2. So at any rate, this is what's happening. Just again, I typed it all up. So this is over at my website. I'm discussing all of these things. By the way, who knows if this video is going to get taken down because I dared to call, put accountability on people who deserve it. That's the world we live in. By the way, you can feel it closing in, right? There will come a time when I'm not allowed to speak to you on platforms like this. I'll have to only put out really milquetoast, very unoffensive, very simple statements that are guaranteed to go past the censors on this channels like YouTube and places like that. But I'm always going to have my full-throated self over at my website, peakprosperity.com, and as well, we're going to be distributing across other platforms because we've seen the writing on the wall. We're very much when Dr. Kory and all of his colleagues can be described as fringe, I don't stand a chance. Those people are way more accomplished professionally as a group than I could ever hope to be. So at any rate, that's where we are in this story. This is what an actual health authority looks like. This is what it would look like if you didn't have managers, but you had health authorities. They would deliver this ivermectin and 2 tablets each, doxycycline, 100 milligrams a day for 5 days, vitamin C. Could be, I didn't quite know how to read that. I hope somebody can help me read I don't read the language. They got a multivitamin and then vitamin D3 in there. This is what a properly functioning health authority would look like. And so my question of the day is, what would it be like to live in a country where effective treatments were actually handed out? Well, that would be awesome because then I would live in a country where I knew that my health was a priority for somebody, that I knew that we were in a social contract together, that where the people who were entrusted with certain duties actually carried those duties out. So in this case, it would be the people who were responsible for health would be carrying out health duties. I see this happening in South Korea. I see this happening in Singapore. I see this happening in many places. But it's not happening in countries where the good doctors who are attempting to surface the science around these sorts of things are called fringe by your leading news outlets and slammed. I'm out of words again. Oh my God, it's disgusting. It's just disgusting. All right, that's it. By the way, you and I, we're in this tribe together, right? What's our tribe? It's we're curious, we're independent-minded, we're capable of thinking for ourselves. We understand that it's okay to be wrong if being wrong helps you closer to get to being right. We know that in fast-moving situations, sometimes you have to operate on imperfect information. But most importantly, we have integrity. I could never, ever, for political partisan gain so that I could belong to my little tribe of other lack of integrity, soulless individuals. I could never do things that would harm people's lives and kill people and maim them, because that's what happens to people who get really hit with COVID. They get maimed, some of them. Their lungs need to be transplanted or their kidneys fail. They really get harmed. I could never harm people like that just to score a few political points, just to please my editors, just to make a few bucks, just to be on the good side of some corporate donors for another election cycle. I could never do that. I don't think you could either, and that's why we're in the same tribe. And if you want to know how we're in this tribe, hey, you can get a t-shirt, you can join a tribe. This is my lovely fiancée, Evie. Evie and I now are, what are we doing about all this? Hey, if you haven't heard and you haven't been on this program in a while, we live on a number of acres out in the country, and because we're very concerned about where all of this goes, and we think that being resilient is a great way to be right now. And so part of being resilient is being in control of certain things in our lives. We believe in being in control of our water, some of our food production, growing our own food, but most importantly, we believe in being in control of our own emotions and not consenting to allowing other people out there to dictate how we think, and most importantly, what we feel. Because there's only so much outrage a person has to give. And there's only so much caring you can do around a set of subjects. So the most important thing you can do is turn your TV off. If you find that it's shaping your views in negative ways. And the second most important thing, it's just as important, parallel important, would be to take vitamin D3 and be in control of other aspects of preparing your terrain, because another way that they win is when you're sick. Another way they win is when you're angry and distracted and confused by what's actually really happening. So, just to reiterate here, these people here who together are saying that these people are fringe, that's exactly backwards. The tide is turning. The people who are formerly being described as on the fringe, these are the heroes in this story. These are the good people. The bad people, if we have to use that language, the goats in this story, those are the ones at the so-called center of this story who are trying to marginalize the people who are just trying to help. All for grubby reasons that are shallow and, most importantly, really forgettable in the sweep of history. So to those of you out there who do have integrity, who are in the media, but are feeling forced by the system to characterize things in the way that we've just gone through here, just think about how you want to be remembered, because we all want to be remembered after we're gone. We all have a birth date and a death date and a little dash in between those two numbers, and what you do with that dash matters a lot. So all I know is that once you sully, the only person who can sully your integrity is you. And once you do that, it's painful. The person you hurt the most when you act out of integrity is yourself. And I'm going to tell you that these articles are profoundly out of integrity, from journalistic standards, minimally, but from a humanistic standard and practice at a higher level. So that's all I got for you today. By the way, I'm not going to end on that sour note. Let's end on a much more positive note. Hey, if you want to get a t-shirt, you can join the tribe. And by the way, at our Instagram page, which is at Instagram/peakprosperity, hey, people are posting pictures of themselves all over the place in these t-shirts. So that's fun too. All right, that's all I got for today. Have a great weekend. Holidays coming up. We'll see you next time.